Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and tonight we're going to focus on Egypt being a main pillar of peace, security and stability in the region, and more specifically in Africa, according to the foreign policy of it, and under the tenure of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi over the past decade, and looking forward to the role of the newly appointed Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdel Ati, continuing the efforts of the former Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry in dealing with crises in the region, several crises to be specific, in Gaza, in Palestine, in Sudan, as we will be focusing and concentrating for tonight on Libya, in Yemen as well. And we will be starting with the main top story for tonight, which comes from the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who said that Egypt will spare no effort to seek a Sudanese reconciliation, to amend the rifts between the Sudanese parties, end the war, and ensure that stability and security are restored in order to preserve the Sudanese nation's resources. The remarks were made as the President on Sunday received the Sudanese delegation, which has participated in a Cairo-hosted conference for the Sudanese political and the civil forces on Saturday. The meeting was also attended by Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati, General Intelligence Chief Abbas Kamel, as well as the representatives of several regional and international parties and institutions. The head of state said that Cairo exerts the utmost effort on different levels to face the fallout of the Sudanese crisis, including offering all-out support in light of the especially distinguished Egyptian-Sudanese relations. The President stressed that the shift to the political track in the Sudanese crisis needs a wide participation from all the parties, and putting the national Sudanese interests on top of all priorities, with the Sudan First principle as a driver for all the sincere national efforts. And we will be heading to the first report of the Daily Debate for tonight, focusing on the activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the past week. Stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi greets the Egyptian people on the 11th anniversary of the 30th of June revolution. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi congratulates the Mauritanian President Mohammed Ould Cheikh Al Ghazouani on his re-election as President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi witnesses at Al Ittihadiyya Palace the swearing-in of the new cabinet headed by Dr. Mustafa Madbouli. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi witnesses the swearing-in of the new governors and their deputies. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with the Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, members of the new cabinet, governors and deputy ministers, and governors after taking the constitutional oath at Al Ittihadiyya Palace. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi witnesses the swearing-in of new heads of judicial authorities and stresses the need to consolidate the rule of law based on justice and equality and guaranteeing rights in accordance with the Constitution and law. President Fattah al-Sisi receives a phone call from the President of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud. The two presidents review ways to enhance bilateral relations. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi congratulates the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Mr. Keir Starmer, after the Labour Party's landslide win in the elections and his appointment as the British Prime Minister. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi receives a phone call from Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and the two leaders exchange greetings on the occasion of the new Hijri year.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and that was a report about the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi over the past week. And right now, we will be heading to the second report of the episode for tonight, which focuses on the main topic for the Daily Debate for tonight, which is the Sudanese crisis and the foreign policy of Egypt in general over the past decade under President al-Sisi, and looking forward to the new leadership of the foreign policy portfolio with the foreign minister, or the newly appointed foreign minister, Dr. Badr Abdulati, who said yesterday that the solution to the Sudanese crisis must be led from within Sudan. We will be having more details regarding such an important topic in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration and Egyptian Expatriate Affairs Badr Abdulati has reiterated that any genuine political solution to the Sudanese crisis must be based on a purely Sudanese vision, free from external impositions or pressure. Speaking at Sudan's Civil Political Group's conference in Cairo on Saturday, Abdulati emphasized that the current conflict is fundamentally a Sudanese issue that requires a comprehensive political solution. Any future political process, he asserted, should involve all national Sudanese actors, respect principles of Sudan's sovereignty and non-interference in its internal affairs, and preserve the Sudanese state and its institutions. Egypt's top diplomat urged for an immediate and sustainable cessation of military operations in Sudan to preserve the Sudanese people's resources and state institutions. He urged all participants in the conference to prioritize Sudan's national interest while affirming Egypt's unwavering support for all efforts aimed at restoring stability, progress, and prosperity to Sudan. Furthermore, Abdulati praised the stance of Sudan's neighboring countries, who welcomed millions of Sudanese citizens sharing their limited resources despite severe economic challenges. He also called on the international community to uphold the commitments made at relief conferences held in Geneva in 2023 and Paris in 2024 to address the funding shortfall facing Sudan, estimated at around 75% of total needs. Reviewing Egypt's humanitarian efforts since the onset of the Sudanese crisis, Abdulati noted the country has received hundreds of thousands of Sudanese, joining nearly 5 million Sudanese citizens already living in Egypt for many years. He added that the Egyptian government has provided urgent relief assistance, including food, shelter, and medical supplies to Sudanese affected by the conflict within Sudanese territories. Sudan has been embroiled in a civil war since April last year between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces. The conference is the latest in a series of efforts made by Egypt to address the Sudanese crisis and halt the war there, in cooperation with regional and international partners, especially Sudan's neighboring countries. In July 2023, Egypt hosted Sudan's neighboring states summit to discuss various aspects of the situation in Sudan and possible solutions to end the crisis. According to the UN, over 8 million Sudanese have been displaced. Over 500,000 Sudanese have crossed into Egypt since the war's onset, according to data released by the Egyptian government.
إلى تصور عام حول وقف الحرب.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate. As I said in the beginning, that Egypt is a main pillar of peace, security and stability in the region and for the sake of Africa. As in the upcoming report, we will be focusing on the Egyptian efforts to be maintaining peace in Gaza, Libya, Yemen and more specifically and more recently in Sudan. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report about the Egyptian efforts for peace. So stay tuned.
The fourth edition of Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development, titled Africa in a Changing World, Re-envisioning Global Governance for Peace and Development, was held last week. At a time of unprecedented challenges to peace and security in Africa and globally, the fourth edition of Aswan Forum seeks to advance African and regional perspectives on re-envisioning global governance for peace and development in a dialogue with partners in anticipation of the Summit of the Future. The Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development tackled regional crises, mainly war on Gaza, developments in Sudan and Libya. During the forum, Egypt has appreciated efforts exerted by the International Crisis Group President Comfort Arrow and his participation in the forum, which brings together senior representatives of international and regional organizations and members of the academic community to exchange views on conflict resolution and peace building across the African continent. On the war on Gaza, the forum highlighted civilian casualties among women and children as a result of the war in Gaza far exceeded the humanitarian repercussions of similar conflicts over the past decades. The situation constitutes a real human catastrophe, as nearly 8 months have passed since the outbreak of the war. Egypt has exerted extensive mediation efforts between Hamas and Israel in conjunction with partners in the US and Qatar. The forum suggested an action plan.